morning to meet with the Iranians and attempt to finalize details of a peace agreement amid newly heightened tensions between the United States and Iran.
Fox's Max Gordon in Dubai. President Trump officially signing a $70 billion immigration funding bill today. Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen.
Now we won't have the Democrats threatening to shut down Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is ICE.
Now, Democrats opposed funding for ICE and Customs and Border Protection, arguing the administration's immigration policies are too heavy-handed. Particularly citing those anti-ICE protests in Minneapolis. America's listening to Fox News.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, newer, older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
And ESPN Radio Extra Point with Chris Canty.
So I guess my problem with the league and the appeals process is the incongruency of it, because it seems arbitrary to allow Cade Cunningham and Luka Doncic to qualify for postseason awards and not Anthony Edwards. And I think head coach Chris Finch put it best, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He said, and I quote, "I'm not sure why we have a rule if we have an appeals process that is overturned in 2/3 of the cases that were held before it. It feels more like a suggestion." That's what it feels like with the 65-game minimum rule. If we like you enough, then we'll let you slide. If you get close enough to the threshold, then we'll go ahead and push you over the top. We'll make you eligible for postseason accolades. But what players are really after is making you eligible for Supermax contracts. Correct. That's what they're saying. And I think it's absolutely disgusting. If you don't want to enforce the 65-game rule, then don't have the rule.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
And y'all thought Philly fans were bad for just throwing snowballs at an apparently drunk Santa Claus. If you want to get an idea of what horrible is, log on to social media. Just life in general advice is, if you want to see doom scrolling at its finest, just log on to your social media app of choice and start scrolling. It happens in my house. I'm not as big into it, but my wife does it often. I don't know if she would consider it doom scrolling, but getting sucked into the vortex of that, if you will. I do too at times. We all do. There's certain things that just grab our attention, because here's a shocker. It's programmed to give you content that will keep you coming back, not programmed to give you content that you will be able to restrain yourself from seeing. They're not concerned about your health. They're concerned about their interests in having you exposed to their apps more often than not, so that they can provide you with ads, get you to buy products, prove the advertising effectiveness, and continue to make money. I know that sounds cynical, but that's how most of the world tends to operate. The latest example of this is much different, though. If you like doom scrolling and want to see the low pits of humanity, you'll see what New York is like based upon how they treated San Antonio Spurs fans after Game 3 of the NBA's final round. The game that you heard on the VTRN Sports app, and you'll be able to hear Game 4 tonight as well on 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app. I was unaware of this, JJ, until I opened up Twitter and all of a sudden started seeing it. And because, of course, I saw a couple of them and clicked on it to see who it was, my feed has now been populated. But here's the sad thing. It's not one person just continuing to share a video without giving credit and attribute. There are multiple different videos of mobs of New Yorkers literally assaulting poor San Antonio Spurs fans, trying to light their hair on fire, pushing them, hitting them, knocking them down, stealing their jerseys. I mean, first of all, JJ, have you seen these videos yourself?
Yes, I have seen them, and I think they're utterly ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, the guys are just supporting their sports team. It's really not that deep.
It is repulsive behavior. Like this is much worse than Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
Like I have been to Philly for the most exhilarating, euphoric moments imaginable. I was there when the Phillies won the World Series in 2008 against the Tampa Bay Rays. And I've been there at some not so exhilarating moments. Terrell Owens breaks his ankle the next year. Lights out Lidge was not lights out that year. He blows the lead against Trey's New York Yankees. And the Phillies end up losing the World Series a couple of games later. But that was really the death knell for them. And there have been moments where opposing fans have been the wrong end of scoring behavior. But first of all, by and large, it was in the venue. Outside the venue, it hasn't taken place. This is next level stuff. Like, first of all, under no circumstance should you be engaging in this behavior. I may have thought it was cool and funny back when I was a young, moronic kid. But now that I have age and perspective, and yes, a little bit more close in my walk with God, I sit there and realize this is not the way to treat people. Like, you can heckle them in an opposing venue. I'm all for it. Like, I'll use my trip to Boston as an example. Oh, by the way, so you're a Celtics fan.
Oh.
I got to ask you this. Are you Boston across the board or just the Celtics?
So I'm all Boston except for football, where I'm the Commanders.
Okay. You're a left-hand upper then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Left
But-
hand up.
but-
Who are we?
By the way, I commend you because you have sacrificed about 2 decades of the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, to be a fan of a trash franchise for the better part of 25 years. Not now, but under their current people in charge. I
Yeah.
won't call them leadership because they didn't really do leading.
Yeah.
But, so you're a Boston Bruins fan as well.
Yes, I am.
So I went up there. I don't know if you were familiar with history. This may have been before your time. I think it was 2009, 2010. Philadelphia is down 3-0 to Boston, comes back, wins the series. Well, I go the next year where Philadelphia was not as good, and I go to a game with my brother in the Garden, and they give up a goal within the first 30 seconds of the game. The Flyers give up another goal in the next 30 seconds, and it was never good. They got destroyed 5-1. It was an onslaught. I got heckled the entire time, and for the most part, I was cool with it. Like, I'm a Philly fan. Philly fans give it to Boston or New Yorkers and vice versa. But the only time I sat there and realized it was just ridiculous behavior was I'm standing in a urinal going to the bathroom, and this guy in a Boston accent behind me goes, hey, I'm not going to use the word, but hey, you, Philly. And he chucks a full beer at me in the back. And of course, I may or may not have been, this was before I stopped consuming adult beverages, just to timeline this. I may or may not have mouthed back, well, you're a real smart one, wasting $20 in beer to just chuck it at a fan's back. And thank God the guy either was so inebriated he didn't process it, or he has already gone and left. My brother had to take the sports code. It's a pink sports code. I wear it in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I had to take that sports code, my brother did, to the dry cleaner, as LeBron James would say.
Not one, not two, not three.
But 4 times to get it cleaned out. 4 times. But that's the worst that I got. I've been in Philly environments where they've thrown hot dogs and debris at Dallas Cowboys fans for cheering. Out Todd Pinkston, former Eagles wide receiver, goes across the middle. Short arms his hands because he doesn't want to catch the ball and he was allergic to contact. And 2 Cowboys fans stand up and cheer. And, just out of left field, hot dogs, hamburgers, food, everything. But it was nothing life-threatening. And still, to me, that's above board. And that was just one fan in the stadium. This is ridiculous. Like, this is much worse. Like, I don't even know how to characterize what we saw. It is mobs of New Yorkers assaulting San Antonio Spurs fans. And for all the people that want to poo-poo on Boston fans and on Philly fans, like, New York is, if you wonder why people don't give credence to the way it's done in New York, outside of New York, and why people outside of New York go, it's not as good as y'all think it is, and we're really not enamored with it, this is an example of that behavior. Like, this is quintessential example of why that's the case. And I think the most amusing parts to this, first of all, the New York media, I know they've gotten dumped on from some people on social media. I don't get that. Most people that I know who are from the New York area have criticized this behavior, media members and celebrities, as they should. But here's the ironic thing about this. What happened to the whole New York confidence? Like, have you ever met a New Yorker who is shy on confidence? And I'm asking that, JJ, to say, have you ever met a New Yorker who may or may not be mistaken for being pretty arrogant about how great New York is and how we're the best and we always got it under control?
Oh, absolutely. They're always expecting the absolute best for their team. I just spent a week at the beach with actually my uncle who's from New York, and all I heard all week was Nixon 4, Nixon 4. So that's the mentality that they carry. I don't think that confidence is still there anymore. Kind of got rattled after 2 nights ago. But you're right. I don't think I've ever heard a New Yorker not be so confident.
Dude, let's call it what it is. It's New York insecurity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, dude, you're New York insecurity. Like, don't give me the New York confidence thing again. I am done with that. It's New York insecurity. You lost one game. One game. You still have home court of the NBA Finals against San Antonio. You lost one game for the first time in 13 games. And your confidence is fractured in your team that they're going to be able to get the job done to the point where you're going out. Like, have some confidence, y'all. See Spurs fans heckle them and say, doesn't matter, we're still going to beat you. But oh no, we're assaulting them. We're acting like morons. I mean, the New York confidence myth is a myth right now, JJ. Like,
so?
It's a joke. Like, if this is what your definition of confidence is, assaulting Spurs fans because you lost one game and still have a 2-1 lead and you've wrestled away and still maintain home court advantage. Don't give me the basketball IQ nonsense about how smart y'all are, because clearly y'all aren't acting that way. Don't give me the whole we're so confident thing. This is done. Let's put this to bed. It's preposterous. The only thing that's more preposterous about than the New York confidence is just the behavior itself. I mean, we've got to draw a line in the sand here and have a level of perspective. And I will also say this much. I don't think it's the older people from New York. I think a lot of it's younger people. Like, if you look at the majority of people in this disgraceful behavior on social media, it does mirror a trend of, and I'll get political for 10 seconds here in the fast lane. It could be pro-Trump or anti-Trump protesters. But oftentimes the most vitriolic ones are people under the age of 30. Like, not to typecast your age range, but if you look at them, they don't look like they're 55-year-old people that are acting like hooligans and morons. Like, by the time you get to that point, even if you're not the richest person, you sit there and you can ask yourself with a level of confidence, is this worth it? And you can probably say the answer is no. But these people acting this way, it's ridiculous. And again, back to the discussion we had Monday and Tuesday about Brendan Sorsby with Texas Tech and the betting culture. I don't dispute that that's a part of it, but I've said this time and again. If you're upset because you bet on the Knicks to win in 4, you bet on them in that game and they lost, you need to re-examine your relationship with sports betting. Like, a lot of these people should be coming down here to Central Virginia Counseling on Wigington Road or Timberlake Road in Lynchburg and getting some anger management issues if they can't handle their sports betting, they can't handle their team losing, or any other level of adversity, because this is preposterous.
Yeah, I mean, I fully think it's okay to be upset when your team loses, but when it escalates to the level of physical violence, there's just no need for that at all in sports. And when you think about it, during Game 3, the watch parties just outside of Madison Square Garden, those weren't even happening due to the president's attendance. So this wasn't happening right outside the Garden. This is in different areas of New York throughout the city.
It is. It's all across the city.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's some heckling from fans, but this is everywhere else. Like, I'm not a big watch party guy to begin with. I know it's some people's, I'm not going to poo on like World Cup watch parties here in Lynchburg or things of that nature. We're a relatively tame bunch here.
Mm-hmm.
We're not ignorant New Yorkers acting like morons out here, JJ. But this is what you got. Yeah, I wouldn't feel great about going to a watch party. I can say that.
Oh.
Even if I'm a New York fan, because I don't want to be associated with that behavior. I'd rather watch from the comforts of my home with my family, not only knowing I'm in a relatively safe environment, and more importantly, I'm around people who are not going to give me a bad reputation for being associated, guilt by association, with idiots like this behavior. And then the other thing is, what happened to the New York people stepping in and just saying this is wrong? Like, all the people that you saw from San Antonio wearing Spurs apparel who are getting accosted, if New Yorkers are so great and people should aspire to be like the greatest city, supposedly, in America, in New York, why is nobody stepping in from that area and saying, look, this is not acceptable? Like, you saw the guy, you may have seen one. There's a guy, trying to tear down a street post and land. And again, Philadelphia sports fan here, laugh at this one because they have plenty of times where you have to grease the poles up because everyone just climbs them up and acts like morons there, even when they win a championship. But one guy's trying to say, no, is it worth it? And then a bunch of other people are going after him, trying to assault him. I mean, dude, be better than that. Like, be better than that. Meanwhile, there is a basketball game that is taking place tonight in New York on the VTRN Sports app. What does JJ think will happen? That we get to right now in.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
We teased it already, JJ. Do the Spurs even this thing back up and put more pressure on the insecure New York fans, or are we closer to America's nightmare of the Knicks getting an NBA championship? By the way, I actually really like the Knicks team. Like, I like a lot of the way they play and what they stand for. And the celebrity culture does not bother me. It's just the rest of it. It's like New York itself and the people there. That's what bothers me. But what happens after tonight, after you listen on the VTRN Sports app? Are we closer or are we further away from a Knicks championship?
I think we unfortunately become one game closer to the Knicks championship tonight. So far in the series, one man, he's come through in big moments, but he has not been good overall, and that's Jalen Brunson. He's shooting right around 40%, just under it, and he has the same number of assists and turnovers in the series thus far, which is just unacceptable from a starting point guard. So I expect him to have a big game tonight, scoring-wise, but I also really want to see him get his teammates involved. I think that's the key for New York.
So you think they find a way to navigate, because Stephon Castle's played really good defense against them. Does Brunson and do the Knicks find a way to kind of untether him from that to where he can have an impact when he scores, but also facilitating?
I think so. I think the key is for him to stop playing so much ISO ball. There's been a lot of touches where he's shooting after holding the ball for 6 seconds or more. And at the end of the day, that's just not good team basketball. You got to keep it moving, keep it swinging, get OG open in the corner. He's automatic from there. I do think they play a better team game, but Brunson's going to be the key player tonight.
Meanwhile,
Number 4.
what do you expect now? Or were you even shocked? We both called this yesterday in our novice NHL projections on the Carolina Hurricanes that they would find a way to win against the Vegas Golden Knights. It was 5-3, but it's kind of deceptive. This was another really thrilling game, and it's followed a script. Carolina gets out to an early lead. Vegas ends up coming back and evening it up or taking the lead. And then, or let me rephrase it. One team comes out to an early lead. The other ends up coming back and evening it up. And then we get into this wild type of game that we've seen over the majority of this series. Do you expect this to continue going forward? And were you at all surprised that that's how last night's game unfolded?
I was not at all surprised just because of the way the Cup has gone so far. I mean, what a Stanley Cup it has been. Every game going down to the wire. Every game's been entertaining. It's just been a joy to watch. But I think tomorrow night, Carolina goes out there and they do win game 5. It's gone Knights, Canes, but I think that pattern breaks with the next game.
I think it does. And here's the thing. I don't put it past either of these series to go 7 games. You know, the Spurs, even if they lose tonight, 2 of the 3 will be in San Antonio. And while the excitement in game 6 in the Garden would be big if they could clinch, there's also a level of pressure that'll come from that. And, you don't know how this team's going to handle that type of pressure. We certainly know how the fans are going to handle it. Probably not very well. But we don't know how New York is going to handle that type of pressure. And I think we're in a very good spot where we might get treated to 2 7-game series.
Oh, what a pleasure that would be. And of course, you could listen to both of them here right on the Virginia Talk Radio Network, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM.
And the VTRN Sports app.
And
some
the
of them after
VTRN
college.
Sports app.
Some of them after College World Series coverage that will begin this Friday. It will preempt the fast lane. Meanwhile,
Number 3.
new money deal. He's gotten paid again. Patrick Mahomes has a new deal with new money for $239.5 million. A total value of his contract, $504.75 million, 2026 through 2033. Over $60 million per year, as the first 4 years are guaranteed whenever he gets to the Chiefs facility and puts his Herbie John Hancock on that particular document. Look, he's the best quarterback in the NFL, and it's not even close. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Like, I know Trey and I have laughed about Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, which one is, ascending to be an elite quarterback. They both have a long way to go to get to Mahomes level. I mean, look at the Chiefs roster. To be transparent, they've basically been in rebuilding mode around Patrick Mahomes the last handful of years. And he has still gotten them to the point, outside of last year where they missed the playoffs and he suffered that knee injury late in the season, he's gotten them further than they really deserve to go with the cumulative collection of talent. I mean, he's by far the best quarterback in the NFL. He's worth every bit of it. You cannot overpay for this guy. And even if you have to pay less or fewer dollars to other positions, this is the example where the Tom Brady effect. He can mask not paying other positions and getting more money himself because he's just that good.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone out there who looks at this contract and says that's a waste of money. It's something you expect. He's their best player in franchise history, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. You pay him every dime, and he's worth it for sure.
Meanwhile, what's worth mentioning as well
Number 2.
we won't beat the dead horse completely, but to the sports betting comments again, we forgot to mention this yesterday. A Texas court has scheduled Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's trial against the NCAA for conveniently February 8th, 2027. Here's a shocker. A Texas court schedules the trial for the Texas Tech quarterback for 2 weeks after the scheduled college football playoff national championship game. I mean, it's classic legalese to try to delay this. I mean, if I'm the NCAA and anybody else around, frankly, if I'm the other conferences, I am pushing hard for this. Apparently, there's growing sentiment from the calls that were taken within the last 24 hours since we spoke yesterday from the Big 12 of being upset at Texas Tech. I mean, again, I'll just simply say this. This is the one precedent you can't handle. You can handle players getting tampered with. You can handle players buying off of other teams' rosters. You can handle recruiting benefits, everything else that goes along navigating the $20.5 million rev share cap, which we know is going on in a lot of big spending programs, because ultimately it's the goal of winning. This is the one area where I think we sit there and go, almost everybody is united in an era where people aren't united on anything, even in sports, much less life. They're almost all united that this is a bridge too far to cross. And having his trial scheduled after February 7th, to me, it's a no-go. I think we've got to get a resolution sooner than that.
Yeah, it just seems unfair. I don't want to throw around the word corrupt because I don't think it is corrupt, but the system as a whole just doesn't seem to be working the right way. And like you said, I think the best solution would be treat them as employees at the end of the day.
Meanwhile, we will get to
Number one
in just a moment with Caleb Barnes on frontstretch.com, but we wanted to get his thoughts. We will get his thoughts on two nuggets that have jumped out in the last 24 hours in NASCAR. One, I mean, you want to talk about toughness? Christopher Bell, with a fractured left wrist, going to race at Pocono this coming weekend. Well, drivers are getting speeds that top 200 miles an hour. There have been some pretty vicious crashes that have unfolded at Pocono. I mean, the fact that these drivers have gotten themselves together safely and made it their way through, prayers to God that continues, that we continue since 2021, since Dale Earnhardt in 2001, to not have a NASCAR driver suffer a fatality. You know, people criticize the car if there's one positive on it. That's the case. But to me, the test on Christopher Bell and his fractured left wrist really is going to come after this race. When you start going to the road course at the Naval Air Force Base out in San Diego, and you have to go to the road course itself out in Sonoma right after that, that's where you're really gripping the wheel. You have to turn it to go in both directions. Pocono, do not underestimate it because it's a triangle-shaped track if you're not familiar with NASCAR, which means you do have to get some pretty sharp turns through those tricky three-turn hairpins at Pocono. But there's also some breaks with long straightaways where your wrist might get a little bit of a break if you're Christopher Bell versus at the road course where in the street course where it's going to be pretty unforgiving. Also, Wood Brothers confirming Josh Berry will not return in 2027. It is not going to name a driver in the near future. For a guy that started off with so much promise, including last year getting a win at Las Vegas, I just hate that it's kind of spiraled out of the way for Josh Berry. He's such a fan favorite. He's a likable driver. He's a short track background. A lot of people around here are very familiar with him. But it's often hard to translate that into consistent success, especially if you're not at a top team and they are looking for people that can continue to do that. When we return in the fast lane, what more can we say about this move with Josh Berry not returning to the Wood Brothers and Christopher Bell and his test of endurance? Caleb Barnes will weigh in on that from frontstretch.com next here in the fast lane.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Hi, I'm Al Billingsley, a board member with CASA of Central Virginia. Children who have experienced abuse or neglect often enter foster care feeling scared, confused, and alone. That's where CASA volunteers step in. We stand behind these children to make sure that their voices are heard in court. CASA is looking for caring adults from our community to serve as volunteer advocates. And as a man, I can tell you we're especially in need more men to step up for these kids. If you're ready to make a difference, learn more at cvcasa.org.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
Time to share great food and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
Summer is a time for sunshine and growth, but even in life's brighter moments, things can still feel overwhelming. At Central Virginia Counseling, we provide professional support when you need it most. This summer, prioritize your well-being. Our experienced counselors are here to help you build resilience and move forward with confidence. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com to get started. Central Virginia Counseling, where courage meets compassion.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses. Leading appliances like KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speed Queen, GE, and Monogram. And mattresses like Sealy, Serta, and Tempur-Pedic. So what's the difference? A family, locally owned business. And a staff committed to servicing you over the entire life of the product. That means before, during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today, just off Ward Road in Lynchburg. Haley's, quality that counts.
Edge of your seat drama, the thrilling pursuit of victories and championships. From the premier NASCAR series to local racing, visit frontstretch.com for your true inside access. We don't just report the news, we live it. From insightful articles and captivating podcast commentary, frontstretch.com opens the gates to the NASCAR pits, track, and corporate suite, so you can get closer to the garage than ever before. Frontstretch.com, fast, fearless, focused on racing fans.
Tired of juggling 5 different numbers for your home's essential systems? Concord Mechanical is your true one-stop shop. From high-efficiency equipment sales and precision installation to proactive maintenance and emergency repairs, the Concord Mechanical will handle it all. Whether you're upgrading your HVAC, fixing a water heater, or seeking seasonal tuning, their expert technicians deliver seamless service under one roof. Save time, eliminate stress, and keep your home running perfectly year-round. Call today or visit theconcordmechanical.com to schedule your service.
The Virginia Talk Radio Network reaches more people than any other Lynchburg-based media company. Call Melinda at 434-534-8500. Let us tell your story.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Well, we touched on it just a moment ago in the Fast Five at 5-ish. If anybody wants to hear our opinions, we would always be glad for you to do so at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts. But now we get the expert's opinion from frontstretch.com as Caleb Barnes joins us once again here in the Fast Lane. Caleb, great to be speaking with you. We are appreciative of your time and apologize that it has been a moment since we've been able to catch up and talk a little bit of NASCAR. How much are people going to be aware of and respect the toughness for Christopher Bell, if not during the hairpin triangular turns at Pocono this weekend, certainly within the next couple of weeks after the San Diego Naval Base course and the road course in Sonoma?
I think they're going to respect, throughout the entire summer, it's going to be just a tough grind with how hot it gets inside those race cars. And then, you mentioned you got Pocono with all the shifting this weekend, and then these road courses coming up. I think it speaks a lot to Christopher wanting to get back to the track and stay in that car for these next few weeks. And I'm glad he's going to give it a shot. I hope he's able to make it through all right. And who knows, maybe we'll see after this weekend at Pocono, maybe he'll decide like he needs to give it some more time and does one of those swap mid races at one of the road courses. But if he's able to hang in there, I think I saw some clips back from 2013. Martin Truex Jr. had a similar issue where his wheel snapped out of his hands and it broke his wrist. And that issue carried out through the rest of that season. That was at like the Bristol night race at the end of August. And all throughout the fall, he was racing with that broken wrist. So this is something that, man, huge props to Christopher. He's going to show a lot of toughness to try to get through this for as long as it's going to take to heal, especially if he's going to continue driving that car. So, glad to see that he is mostly all right, but hope to continue to see that hand heal. He's going to be tough throughout the rest of the summer, though. Those JGR cars have been super fast all season so far.
All right, so the next question that we get to ask of Caleb Barnes of FrontStretch.com in regards to this is something that your colleague Tom Bowles of FrontStretch.com wrote about in his Did You Notice piece that dropped earlier today. The volume of injuries that have crept up in multiple sports and multiple disciplines of racing. He referenced IndyCar, but for the sake of our chat, we're going to stick with NASCAR today. What level of concern is there now that we've seen head injuries in prior years and this time other body parts falling victim to injuries in a car that has been very protective and has accomplished its ultimate goal of keeping drivers safe from fatalities, but not necessarily at the cost of being victimized in other areas?
The head injuries were certainly concerning, especially whenever this car first debuted. These types of things, I just think each incident is kind of different. It's kind of a one-off. You just have to look at the different aspects of how fast the cars were going when they hit and some of those sorts of things. I'm trying to remember what some of the other drivers have been knocked out for. I was thinking through, like Eric Jones got knocked out, had Corey Heim, I believe, run a race for him a year or two ago. And it's just like that wreck with Bell. If he hopped out of that without an injury, I would have been more surprised just because of how hard that he hit and the angle. And not only did he just destroy the wall, literally, they had to come in and fix the wall. After he bounced off the wall, then Chase Elliott hit him at almost an equally hard angle, car to car right there. So with the speed that it happened, he wasn't able to get his hands off the wheel. We've seen more drivers do things like that, try to get their hands off the wheel because that thing snaps whenever they hit the wall. But that's ultimately like, again, I wasn't super surprised to see it. You never want to see injuries happen in racing, but at the same time, these types of ones, it's a little bit more understandable than when we were first having all these head injuries with the concussions and everything. They found ways to soften the hits as much as they can, but the steering wheel and just kind of the way that it snaps and some of those things, there's only so much that you can do to try to keep a driver's hands safe in those moments. But I'm not super concerned at this point unless it becomes a trend again. Like I said, those head injuries, bad, get them out. Glad to see that they've kind of figured some things out with that. But I'm not super concerned after the most recent crash and injury that we saw. And again, we are seeing Christopher give racing a shot for these next couple weeks, so it hasn't knocked him out of the car either.
I heard the debate with Tom Bowles, Dalton Hopkins, Chris Graham, and Brian Nolan on the Front Stretch Happy Hour podcast that dropped for most people last night. They listen live as they can every Tuesday at 7:30 on the Front Stretch YouTube channel. But to get my usher on for a moment in the fast lane, I listen in podcast form so I can consume it while I'm running. So when I listened to it, I heard the debate about how this injury, and if it really solidifies the idea that we are now down to a 2-driver race for the NASCAR regular season championship and even the postseason championship. Are you ready to go that far, or are you still holding out hope? Maybe starting this weekend, if not in the near future, some Chevrolets can weave their way into the mix as well.
I think the regular season championship is going to come down to Denny and Reddick, just with what those two have done so far, and then what you know from Denny Hamlin, what you've come to expect from him out of the summer months. Now, the road courses do pose a bit of a concern for Hamlin. We'll see if he's able to keep up with Reddick. And Denny even said on his own podcast that he thinks he still needs some more help in terms of bad luck from Reddick's perspective to try to even catch that 45 car. That being said, I think as much as we've talked about like the chase and this new points standings and like it still matters, like the drivers have said they think you need to be in positions 1 through 5 once the reseeding happens. I still think there's a lot more that could happen once you get that reseeding. So I'll go ahead and give that two horse race battle for the regular season championship. I'll go ahead and give into that storyline, but I'm still holding out hope, or I don't know about hope, but I'm still holding out the belief that once the chase comes around, that anybody can find speed throughout those last 10 weeks and really go and contend for the championship. Not just those that 11 or 45. I think it could be anybody within that 16 race field if they find enough speed and contend for enough wins, like a Tony Stewart back in 2011. Again, that was rare, but I think it can still happen.
Well, you mentioned Tony Stewart in 2011, and I mean, that's the thing that keeps coming back to my mind. Kyle Larson's the easy one in that maybe it's a William Byron, a Chase Elliott, or somebody else, but the potential that somebody, Chevrolet, they're not there, but they're not too far off on speed, and that somebody could get to that point. Is Kyle Larson the obvious candidate out of the bunch? Do you look at Chase Elliott because he's been more consistent as a driver that could get on a heater this coming summer, and all of a sudden we're not really talking about him now, but he's lurking in the weeds enough, and don't look now, but when the chase starts, maybe he's in that top 5.
I think Kyle Larson is kind of the obvious guy that you think of that can catch lightning in a bottle, like Jimmy Johnson and Jack Nouse used to do for those 5 straight years whenever they went and won those championships. But I do think Chase Elliott is the more consistent guy. He already has those 2 wins. He's been the most consistent Chevrolet Hendrick driver to me. And then I think you still got to pay attention to the Ford camp, just what Penske has done the last few years. Like, they've had those types of runs where the last 10 races, especially Ryan Blaney, is that guy who goes and knocks out a couple wins, is super consistent. And again, it just really comes down to finishing those races well, not getting caught up in any messes just for those last 10 races. But I'm looking at like Elliott, Larson, and then Blaney as possibly the 3 that could upset those Toyotas when it comes time to decide who wins the championship during that 10 race chase.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a very reasonable grouping. You're not sure exactly where they are, but we've got time to sort that information out. Now, when we get to Pocono this coming weekend, is it Denny Hamlin and everyone else, or is it Toyota and everybody else?
I think this weekend at Pocono, it's Denny Hamlin and everyone else, just what he's done at that track in the next-gen car. We're at a weird part or a weird point with this car where I feel like, in my humble opinion, that we've been to enough of these racetracks that even though we talk about parity and these teams are so equal, I almost feel like we're starting to see a lot of the same winners at the same tracks. And we saw that with Denny Hamlin back-to-back at Michigan. And Denny's been fast at Nashville, finally broke through to get that win a few weeks ago. He's been so good at Pocono already in this next-gen era that I think it's going to take something kind of special from the rest of the field, even his Toyota teammates, to knock him off the top. I think he goes ahead and gets that 3 in a row. I think he's going to have a hard time getting 4 in a row as we go to road courses after that. But I think he'll set that new mark with 3 in a row coming up this weekend at Pocono.
Yeah, I mean, it is. There's a real good possibility of that, given how well Denny Hamlin has run, having won 2 in a row and really been a threat at Charlotte before the weather wreaked havoc on everything there. If you're looking for challengers, do you look within his own team at Joe Gibbs Racing? Do you add Tyler Reddick and the slumping Bubba Wallace to the mix? Where are you looking in terms of drivers that you would be not surprised if they happen to be the ones in victory lane on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, those Gibbs cars were fast the last couple weeks. And last year, Chase Briscoe obviously kind of did what he did with playing the few mileage game, got out in front, got that track position. That's the other thing. It is such a track position race that it comes down to. But those Toyotas were fast. It was hard to get a read. I felt like Chevy showed something last week compared to where they've been in the past. But like I said, it was kind of hard to get a read because of all the carnage and chaos that happened. I did notice staying outside the care center, it was like the top 5 or 7 positions were largely Chevrolet, and that was kind of in stage 3. But again, like I said, that was after guys like Reddick and Bell had already been involved in some of the stuff up front and taken out. But that being said, I do think that, I mean, if Hendrick's going to start showing something, I think now is the time. If they can carry over some of the speed from Pocono. Larson, Elliott were good last week. I thought William Byron was pretty fast, but just kind of got mired back in traffic, and strategy kind of offset him a little bit. So, but yeah, I think Denny's biggest competition is going to be his teammates, and then maybe just a step behind will be those Hendrick boys, just again, like we've been seeing so far this season.
Speaking of Toyota, Corey Heim to 2311 Racing. I know Riley Herbst improved over the course of this season compared to last year, but was this the no-brainer move for 2311, given that you're in a spot where you can add, let's be real, more of a generational talent to complement Tyler Reddick? We've seen what he's done this year, and Bubba Wallace, who's got more proven pedigree.
I think it had to be. I mean, just from what Corey's shown in the Truck Series, as Toyota, you don't want to let that guy walk. And I mean, I guess the rumor is that they're still going to also be hanging on to Riley Herbst in the form of Legacy Motor Club. And that's also a big pickup there from what Riley's been able to learn over the past 2 years now, or season and a half, I suppose, and just the trajectory of that Legacy team with what we've seen out of Eric Jones. I mean, they could do something special next season as well. But Corey Heim, I think, is the obvious choice. I'll be really curious to see where he fits in. I mean, we've already seen him leading laps. Now, some of that was just some offset pit cycle and everything. But I mean, I think he's going to be the real deal. It's just so crowded up at the top of the Cup Series. So I don't know where he's going to slot in yet. But that's something we'll have to see if he's going to start having a good season next year, if it's going to be kind of like we've seen maybe Connor Zilic this year, where we had a lot of high expectations for him. I know Corey, like ever since they announced that, he's had some good moments, but then he also like ran over Todd Gilliland at Nashville. I think that was the weekend that they announced it. So I think it was the no-brainer. It was the obvious choice. We'll see what he can bring to that team next year.
Indeed. That'll be a lot of fun to get an idea of that. Meanwhile, we don't know who will be on another team, and that is going to be Wood Brothers Racing parting ways with Josh Berry. I love Josh Berry. I hate it for him and the story of him in this move. Was this something they had to do, given how he had slumped so badly after getting a win at Vegas in the early part of last season? Or is this one where you sit there and go, maybe this was a little premature?
I think the writing was on the wall. I saw one of the stats. I don't remember exactly the number, but it was just like the DNF percentage for Josh Berry was just super, super high. And I mean, it was surprising because things started off so well last year, right? Like they got that win at Las Vegas, and you're like, oh man, Josh Berry, like him and Wood Brothers, they're meshing just so well together. And that just has not been the case since then. And I mean, it's even one thing to be kind of like a non-factor, like to be running in the teens or 20s and just out of the storyline, but he's been a story because he's been crashing so much. And I mean, I remember walking down pit lane on Saturday, and I hear the tires and hear whoever's lifting out of the gas, and I couldn't remember who was on track at that time, and I was like, oh no, and I looked over and saw Josh sliding down the front stretch, and I was like, oh no, not again. And so I'm with you, like on I mean, Josh seems like a great guy, but at the same time, it just has not worked out for him the last 2 seasons. And it sucks to see that. It sucks to see drivers kind of losing opportunities that they worked hard to earn. I mean, we saw we saw the story of Josh Berry and how he grew so much with from late models into the JRM equipment, and felt like he truly earned the Cup ride that he got. And then it's gone downhill ever since.
Yeah, it has. I hate it, but I guess I get it. In the business is business sense. Meanwhile, the business of NASCAR is at frontstretch.com, and Caleb Barnes is one of the great contributors. Caleb, thank you for making time for us today in the Fast Lane. Glad to have you back on.
Thanks, Ed.
Caleb Barnes with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, we pivot from that to all the state quarterfinal action and a lot of it that unfolded last night in our area. We will get a rundown with NewsAdvance.com's Bryson Gordon here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM.
Celebrate 250 years of America with massive savings during the Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Right now, get an additional $250 fuel savings discount on all new and used vehicles. An additional $250 in fuel savings. Shop over 2,000 new and used vehicles in one location, including more than 1,000 quality pre-owned vehicles with most makes and models at the Used Car Superstore. Plus 12 new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Subaru, Chevrolet, Buick, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Used cars starting at just $59.95. $59.95. And your trade is worth more. Shop local and save with straightforward pricing, exceptional service and selection, certified friendly staff, no games, no gimmicks, and more inventory arriving daily, plus flexible financing options for every budget. We've got the credit. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. The Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Example 2009 Chevrolet Impala stock number KA260134B plus tax tag title and $697 processing processing fee.
Big news, everyone. Earthright Roofing is giving away a free roof. Go to our website to read the terms and conditions and see if you qualify for up to a $10,000 asphalt shingle roof at no charge. Must be 15 years or older roof to qualify. Come to our showroom for a double entry into the contest or go online for an entry. Enjoy, and we look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you. Visit earthrightroofing.com or call our office at 434-248-3697 for more information about the contest. We look forward to hearing from you.
Starting a landscaping business, growing your fleet, Miller Built Outdoor Equipment is focused on commercial turf professionals across Central Virginia. We help you choose the right Toro commercial mower, professional handheld equipment, and the right support plan so your operation grows the right way. Commercial turf is your business. Supporting it is ours. Miller Built Outdoor Equipment on 12th Street in Lynchburg.
Spring means green lawns, open windows, and afternoons spent outdoors. At Brownstone Properties, you'll find homes with private yards, with locations near scenic walking trails, or beautiful local parks, perfect for family picnics or peaceful strolls. This season, find your place to grow. Start today at brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025. Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
Are you sick of running your dryer longer just to dry your clothes? It might not be a dying appliance. It might be a clogged up dryer vent. Call Black Goose Chimney Service to find out. Their certified ventilation specialists don't just diagnose chimneys. They also clean dryer vents through the entire ventilation system. Get peace of mind as you're protected from lint clogging your dryer vents, one of the most common causes of house fires. Call Black Goose Chimney Service today and visit blackgoose.net to schedule your dryer vent cleaning.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Hey, this is Virginia Tech analyst and former Hokies tight end Mike Burnham. You're listening to The Fast Lane with Ed Lane and Trey Lyle. Join the chat at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
We had winners, lots of them last night. Unlike in New York on Monday, where there weren't any winners, at least those, because the Spurs fans who thought they were winning and celebrating got accosted by the New Yorkers who couldn't handle one loss. That New York confidence was on fine display on Monday night. Meanwhile, somebody who has plenty of confidence because he is not from New York. He is not a fan of the New York teams. He is a fan of their mortal enemy team up there, the Boston Red Sox. Bryson Gordon with us here in the Fast Lane. PG, first of all, what hat is that right now?
A little Travis Matthew hat here. Just I'm too ashamed to wear the Red Sox hat these days. You get a lot of ugly looks in public, so it's in the bag. It's in the bag till maybe in the fall. We'll see.
Can't be any uglier than New York looks. People think you might have cost them at the grocery store.
I would never be called that in a Yankees hat, man. That'd be terrible.
I mean, we can't all be as ugly as Trey Lyle is only when he's wearing that hat. He looked dapper, by the way, this weekend in his wedding photos because there was no Yankees apparel on. It's funny how that works, right, PG?
I was going to say, I'm surprised he didn't talk his wife into his fiance into allowing him to have a big NY chain on. I'm surprised he didn't try to work that in somehow.
My man, pinstripe uniform.
Pinstripe suit, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have gone over very well, I'm sure. And I know how these weddings go. I'm pointing to my wedding ring. You don't have a say in what you're wearing on your wedding day. That's all her decision.
You get told.
You definitely do. You get voluntold a lot. It's the start of a lot of that. Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. Meanwhile, yesterday, can you remember a day? And I know you're relatively new to the beat covering the high school sports scene. You've done a lot of sports for Liberty University. Can you remember a day where this many teams were in the state quarterfinals or in glass lacrosse semifinal case, and all of them came away with wins from our area?
Yeah, I was thinking back. I was actually looking earlier today. As you mentioned, this is going to be, I think, my third or fourth spring jubilee, and I was kind of looking at what we've done in the last few years on that first Thursday or that first Friday of semifinals, and I think this is going to be a lot. We're going to have 7 teams in our area, play on this weekend. 6 teams playing on Friday in the semifinals. Obviously, UC Glass won their semifinal last night, so they're on to the championship on Saturday, and so it feels like it's a busy time of year for everybody, but it especially feels that way for us. I think just because of our athletes had a really good spring. We had a number of surprise teams that made it to last night. Just thinking about some of the shockers. You think about Liberty High School in softball. They made it through as a 6 seed in the region playoffs. Think back to some other teams. Liberty Christian boys soccer, they were a 7 seed in their region playoffs. They ended up winning the region championship, and they won last night in region play. So a lot of these teams that were a little bit surprising, kind of coming throughout and emerging through their region play. That's what kind of made for a busy night last night. We had 14 teams in action in total yesterday. When you include the Glass girls tennis team, they were out in action out in Jamestown, and so there was some action everywhere you looked last night. And as a sports reporter who likes to stay busy, 7 teams is nice. I'm glad we have a lot of happy kids that are playing in the state semifinals this weekend, but that's a lot of teams. And so, we'll see how things go this weekend. But as I mentioned, kind of happy for everybody that the Lynchburg area seems to be having such a great spring sports season right now.
Well, we're grateful Bryson Gordon has been able to catch his breath and is giving us a moment while he is mentally preparing for what's going to be a very hectic weekend of coverage at newsadvance.com. Let's start with EC Glass boys lacrosse because they're the one that has a state championship on the line in Class 4 this coming Saturday. How did they go from the team being the proverbial team nobody wants to play, where you knew the potential was there, but they hadn't quite put it all together, to one that clearly has and is trying to compete for their second state title in a decade?
Yeah, you talked to Coach Renuska, Eddie Renuska, and it seems like a group that they knew that they had a really special team at the beginning of the season, as you mentioned. Like, they had a lot of guys that were coming back from last year's team that didn't necessarily make the state tournament. They fell short, lost to Jefferson Forest in the region semifinals, but they returned a lot this year. They felt like they were the best team, at least in the local area when it comes to them in Jefferson Forest. And you really saw that in the one time they met in the playoffs. I mean, Jefferson Forest really struggled to take possession of the ball at any point. EC Glass really commanded the ball. They commanded the scoreboard. They commanded it over both days that they played. And EC Glass, really, that was kind of their statement to be, the best team in terms of lacrosse in the area this year. I think what kind of has separated the team in the playoffs has been not just the addition of John Sorensen. John Sorensen played for them, early in the season. He missed, almost 6 weeks, I think, with a hip injury. He's made his way back for the playoffs. He's an incredible attack player. He's somebody who's going to keep their offense going. But what has really, kind of made them better is the fact that while he was gone, it put guys in positions that maybe were, one spot on the depth chart above where you might be usually. And so now that Sorensen's back and a lot of these guys are stepping back into some roles they may have been accustomed to early in the season, they're more prepared. They're ready. They've been playing in big spots all season long. And I think in general, you're just seeing a team that as I mentioned, you talked to Coach Renuska. They seem like they're fighting for each other. They seem like they're, really coming around each other, and they're playing their best lacrosse all year. They beat an unbeaten team in Meridian last night on the road. They've been road warriors throughout the entire, pretty much the entire playoffs, except for their state quarterfinal game at home, which they earned by beating Salem in the region championship. And so they'll play Salem again on Saturday. They played twice this year. They've gone 1-1. You think about a classic championship game, you can't really ask for much more. It'll be the rubber match in every sense of the word. And it's kind of cool. You think about all the good lacrosse teams you have in Northern Virginia and out there in Richmond, but to think that 2 teams from the 434 here in in our backyard at EC Glass and Salem will be playing for the lacrosse state championship in Class 4. It's kind of a cool thing, and really speaks to the growth of a lot of the coaches and players in the local lacrosse scene to kind of build it into the situation where you can have an all area lacrosse championship like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the first time that's happened. So often Glass has run into teams from up in the Northern Virginia or the Richmond or Virginia Beach areas, and now all of a sudden you get basically a Central Southwest Virginia matchup with Glass and Salem competing for a state championship. Are you expecting this to be kind of another one of these closer bare knuckle defensive type games on Saturday?
I would anticipate that. You look back to their first meeting in the regular season, and when Salem won by a handful of goals. Glass wasn't necessarily 100% healthy in that game. I think they were missing some key guys. It was early in the season. It felt like that was maybe the feel-out game of the 2 that they have at least played so far. And then you flash forward to last week. It was a really grinded out, as you mentioned, a low-scoring game. I think Salem led 5-3 actually in the fourth quarter of that matchup before EC Glass scored 4 straight goals kind of late in the game to surge into the lead and take control. They eventually won 7-6. And so I think you're going to see more of a game like that. Like these teams, you talk about it in football, you talk about it in all kinds of other sports. Like it's hard to beat that team. When you see them a third time, like they know your intricacies, they know everything about you. And especially when it's a region foe like Salem, where they see each other on a year-to-year basis. These teams are so familiar with each other. So I think, with the two quality coaches and two really quality teams, you're going to see them, I would anticipate maybe things are a little bit nervous in the early going because nobody wants to make the first misstep. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to see pretty comfortably the two best teams in Class 4 for lacrosse. I mean, Eddie Renuska said it. He thought all season long they'd be, if both teams took care of business, they'd be facing Salem in this game, and it's worked out that way. Both teams have kind of rolled through their first two playoff games. Salem had a little bit of a closer game than Glass did last night, but they made it here and they made it back after losing that region championship to Glass on their home field. And so I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, but I think the team that can finish strong is going to be the team that comes out on top. You saw that in the region championship. And I think that the last, 4 or 5 minutes of this championship game will probably be what decides it.
NewsAdvance.com's BG, Bryson Gordon, with us here in the Fast Lane. What if I told you the one team left from LCA would be boys soccer?
That's a great question. I think I was actually at LCA last night talking to people about that. I said, what would I have told you back in March if this was, the last team you're hanging on to is the boys soccer team? A lot of people would be shocked. And I think even go back to last week, you'd have been shocked. This was a team that was the number 7 seed in their region in their region 3C tournament. They've really come together quickly. I will say, that their record and their seed might be a little bit and maybe not quite indicative of how good they are. 4 of their 5 losses came to EC Glass and Jefferson Forest 2 times each. Those are 2 Class 4 teams who are really good, really competed for their region championships. And so I think LCA was always a little bit better than their record showed and their seed showed. But I think expecting this team to be one of the final 4 teams in Class 3 boys soccer standing, that might have been a little bit of a stretch at the beginning of the season. Once again, that's just a testament to these guys like, Christian Banks, their leading goal scorer on the season. He's been incredible. I think he has upwards of 10 goals in 4 playoff games already. Dylan Rice is another midfielder, kind of a forward guy who's been great for them. And Coach Oswald Atten, I think he's been there for 4 years, really took this program from a team that wasn't even considering, wasn't even making the playoffs a couple seasons ago. And now they're one of the last 4 teams remaining. It's been a quick growth for the LCA boys soccer team. And the interesting thing about them is that they're relatively young. They're going to lose a couple of important pieces, but I think, a lot of the key guys for this team have the opportunity to come back next year and maybe even make it another special season next year. So this is a team to look out for this weekend, but I also think it might be a program to kind of keep your eye on over the next few years as they try to put themselves in that conversation with JF and EC Glass around here.
BG, the other teams that you might be able to label, I wouldn't say full surprises, but mild surprises, William Campbell softball, Appomattox boys soccer, and Nelson County girls soccer. Out of that bunch, which one is the one that actually has surprised you the most?
Yeah, I think if you go back all the way to the beginning of the season, you got to talk about the Nelson County girls soccer team. They've surprised everybody, and in the sense of they surprised nobody with their dominance this year. I think a lot of people expected them to be good, but I think they've surprised a lot of people with how good they've been. Their goal differential this year is 124-4, and that's not a typo. That's unbelievable, the amount of offenses they're able to put on the board, that the amount of goals that they're able to keep their opposing teams from getting. They dominate the possession, and they really haven't been tested this year. They won 1-0 last night. That was their closest game all season long. They haven't had another game decided by fewer than 2 goals the rest of the way. They've dominated everybody, and so I don't think it's a surprise that they have gotten to this point, but I think it's a surprise that they have been this good all season long. And of that group, they certainly have the best opportunity to win a state championship. It's going to be tough. You look at some of these teams around the state that play Class 2 soccer. It really gets tough when you get to the Final Four. Nelson County already has a win over Glenver, who is traditionally one of the best Class 2 teams on a year in, year out basis in girls soccer. They already have a win over them, and so they feel good about themselves going into this Final Four. But I think in general, to touch on the other two, 2 great stories. William Campbell, they've had a really tough schedule in the regular season. They've emerged the better for it in Class 1, and then of course, think about Appomattox County soccer, for them to go all the way out to Bluefield last night, play Graham, almost a 3-hour bus ride for them to get that big win and punch their ticket back to the state, the state Final Four. That's kind of what this time of year is all about, right? You're all excited about the kids that, you're expecting the teams like JF baseball. You expect the teams like, Appomattox County softball to be playing deep, but you don't necessarily expect some other teams. And when those kids have the opportunity to go play in the Final Four and go play in places like in Salem this weekend, that's what really makes the Spring Jubilee special this time of year.
I'm going to pull EC Glass boys lacrosse out of our last question because they are going to be competing for a state championship Saturday, and most people expect it to be close, and therefore, if it's close, by definition, the Hilltoppers have a chance to get championship number 2 for their boys lacrosse program. So we're not going to count them in this. Out of the rest of them, Nelson girls soccer, Appomattox boys soccer, LCA boys soccer, William Campbell softball, Appomattox softball, or JF baseball. If you were to say these two compete for and win a state championship, would JF baseball and Appomattox County softball be the most logical ones out of that bunch?
That's a tough question. I think, Jefferson Forest, I think they're a really good baseball team. They have a tough task in Atlee tomorrow. I think if you made me pick two out of that group, I think I'd probably stick with, Appomattox County softball. It feels like their girls are on a multi-year journey to kind of get back to that state championship and win that state championship. I feel like they're a team that, I don't want to say the D word, but they might be destined to get back to that spot. And then, I really think the Nelson County girls are the team to watch as well. I think, if they could get past the semifinal game, they're going to be feeling really good about themselves. Last night's result was a little bit closer than I probably would have anticipated. I think maybe some people would have, but I think in general, this team has been on another level all season long. And so for them to finish this off with a championship, I feel like that would be kind of fitting for this team. And so if I had to pick two, I think those two would be, the teams that would win it all. I certainly think Jefferson Forest has an opportunity. I think if Jefferson Forest is able to withstand the Atlee offense in the semifinals and make their way to the championship, they probably would be the team to beat if they get into the championship game. But, Atlee, they've lost one time all year. They're a really talented team. They pour on the offense. That's going to be a tough task right out of the gates for JF.
Bryson Gordon giving us a nice synopsis of everything in local sports. BG, appreciative of your time. I promise we will talk some Liberty Flames at some point here in the fast lane. But outside of recruiting commitments, since they seem to be picking them up every single day now, every time you breathe, there's a new addition to their football recruiting class. Not a whole lot else going on, so we will table that for next time.
Yes, sir. That's what I was going to say. I think they might have added a 3-star while I'm talking to you, maybe. No, I'm just kidding.
Send me scouring the Twitter, getting distracted again. Bryson Gordon with us here in the fast lane. BG, good to chat. Always a pleasure. We'll do it again soon.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure. Bryson Gordon with us here in the fast lane. W227 BG Timberlake, WVJ Mellon Shore, WMNA, Gretna Danville Southside. Now on to Freddie and Harry. And then game 4, San Antonio, New York, NBA playoffs on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM.
Progressive.com and apply today.